I cannot believe it is the middle of the year and it is time for me to check in with you guys and let you know how this year has gone so far. I am going to quickly update some stats, check in on my reading goals and see if I have any new ones, and then we're going to go through my best and worst books of each month so far. When I say that I'm going through my best and the worst of each month, this is not a best and worst list of the year. It's only for each month, so I could have 2 books on my best of the year list in one month, but you're only going to hear about one of them. And I could have a worst book of the month, but it may or may not actually end up on my worst books of the year. So just so that you guys get a little snippet without giving away too much of the goods. Really quickly though, I wanted to check in on my reading goals and give you guys some stats for the beginning of the year. I went back and watched my 2024 reading goals and things that I had goals for myself and my channel throughout the year. I did some of these well and some of these really not well. I had a couple of goals like making sure that I had less notifications, participating in more book clubs, only doing 3 vlogs per week, and trying to read more genres. I didn't succeed very well at these. I have still been on a 4 vlog a week schedule, which I think I'm actually going to keep for now. My notifications are still absolutely insane and I absolutely want to participate in more book clubs, and I've kind of gone down a romantasy hole this year and not really branched out of it a whole lot. However, I do feel like I've done a pretty good job about being active in the community, picking up books that I want to read. For the most part, my average rating this year is a 3.3, but I've only had 5 DNFs, so overall I think that I am trying to pick up more books that I want to read. And then according to Goodreads, I have read 83 of my 150 book goal, which is approximately 7 books ahead of schedule. So I feel like I'm doing really well from that standpoint. I definitely feel like I could be doing better about my series though. I really wanted to complete and continue series this year, and for the most part I've done that. I have completed 2 series, made progress in 18 series, and caught up on a lot, but I've started 43 so far this year, so don't know that I can really consider that a checked off goal. As far as goals that I want to add for myself for the rest of the year, I want to try to read more ebook and physical books. I definitely listen to a lot of audiobooks. The majority of my reading has been audiobooks this year with 37, and then I have read 21 ebooks and 8 physical books, and then 24 mixture where I've either read along with the book, so those also have an ebook and physical component. But I definitely want to amp up especially my physical reading game. I have so many beautiful books behind me. Why am I not reading them physically? So that is something that I'm going to try to do for the rest of the year. And then I also want to amp up my diverse reading. I do a decent job of reading LGBTQ+ representation in books, but I definitely want to branch out and read more authors of color for the rest of this year. So if you have any recommendations, especially for romantasy authors, please leave those down below because I want to know what you guys are loving and so that I can love them too. So we did check off a couple of stats in that, but I just wanted to quickly mention that I have had mostly 3 stars this year, which no one's surprised by, but I have had a pretty good amount of 4 stars and a couple of 5 stars. Mostly I am reading from authors that I have read from before, but I've read a pretty decent amount of debut and new to me authors as well. Indie, killing the indie game, but a lot of that is indie romantasy. And I've been reading mostly backlist or books that were published last year. I really haven't been reading a lot of new releases, and I'm okay with this. I'm not hating on this, and I think I kind of want to keep it the same because I love new releases and I love being in on the hype, but at the same time, I hate waiting on new books. So I am okay with picking up authors that I love new releases, but prioritizing backlist as well. That pretty much goes through my goals and my stats. Let's move on to my best and worst books of the year so far. I should say that I'm not going to be including DNFs in this. If I DNF'd it, it won't be considered the worst book of the month because I didn't complete it. There could be some DNFs that end up on my worst books of the year list. It just kind of depends on how far I got into them, but for the purposes of this video, we are only going to go with books that I've completed. So in January, my worst book of January was Court of Winter by Krista Street. I didn't hate this book. It actually got a 3-star. It was just the worst one of the month. This is a winter fantasy romance that just felt a little lackluster for me. I didn't just love their chemistry, and so it wasn't just like a top tier romantasy. And then my best book of the month was actually a literary horror, literary thriller. I don't really know exactly what genre this book falls into, but Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. This is just such a gut-wrenching and compelling story about a girl that is very different and the life and how she ended up to be where she is and the circumstances that led her there. And I just found this to be so compelling. Even though it's not really twisty and turny, you kind of know what's going on throughout the book. I just could not stop reading to find out what was going on with Sally. This has a lot of triggers triggers. So if you have triggers, I would highly recommend looking these up, but absolutely, absolutely love this book and could not recommend it enough. If this is a genre that you typically enjoy, and even if it's not, but you think you could enjoy it, I would say give it a try because this book was fantastic. Then in the month of February, my worst book of the month is sadly a book club pick. I read this for the Lights Out Book Club with Sav from Riveting Reads, and that was This Wretched Valley by Jenny Kiefer, I think is how you say their name. This is a Lost in the Woods horror that I really, really wanted to love, but just completely missed the mark for me. It felt like it was kind of all over the place and didn't really hammer in and hone in on what it wanted to do. There was a lot of potential there, but it really, really missed the mark for me. There is a live show on Sav's channel if you want to check out more of our thoughts, but this one got a 2-star from me. And then the best book of the month was Slaying the Shadow Prince by Helen Shure. This I read for 48 hours this year and absolutely loved this. It started me on my like Helen Shure and really kicked off my romantasy reading for the year. As you guys have probably guessed, this is a Shadow Daddy. It is the prequel novel that is set in the world of Blood and Steel. You can read this before all of them, or you can read it I think after book 2. I read it first. I can't really speak on the reading order because, well, I only read it one way and I haven't read book 2 yet, but I really, really enjoyed this. It's a little heavier smut than I typically enjoy, but their banter was amazing. The plot in this was amazing. The world building was amazing, and I cannot recommend this book to you guys enough. Then for the month of March, sadly, my worst book was one of the SPFBO finalists last year, and I don't think this will make it onto my worst books of the year, but it was Cold West by Clayton Snyder. It is a horror fantasy with a very Western setting, and it just really wasn't my type of book. While I can appreciate that other people might enjoy it, it just really didn't work for me. The writing was a little choppy and I never really felt invested in the characters. But this month had some really good reading. It was the month of Realmathon. I read a lot of books and I had a lot of really good books that I read. I had a hard time picking what I would consider my best book of the month, but I think I'm gonna go with Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Rourke. I really enjoyed this. I know that it has very mixed reviews on BookTube, but I read it at the right time and fell in love with Scarlett and Soren and their relationship and the world in here. I think that if you are going to read these though, I would highly recommend just kind of binging the series, because if you love book 1, it feels very similar throughout the rest of the books. I've kind of gotten to where I feel like it is being a little too repetitive and I'm not finding myself enjoying the later books in the series as much, but I think it's because I waited too long to read them. But I really, really enjoyed this one. It has assassins, it has enemies to lovers, knife to the throat trope, and I just really enjoyed it. In the month of April, my worst book of the month was also another SPFBO finalist, which I hate, but it was The Fall Is All There Is by C.M. Kaplan. This is another falling solidly into this is not a Mel book kind of camp. It is a diverse main character, which I really appreciated, but unfortunately the book felt extremely chaotic and it didn't really feel very fantasy to me. It felt more sci-fi but in a fantasy world, and it just didn't really know what it wanted to do plot-wise. It knew exactly where it was character-wise, but it didn't know what it wanted to do plot-wise, and the character just didn't really resonate with me, so I had a hard time with the story overall. But my best book of the month I think is going to be The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee. I had so much fun with this book. This is definitely a fun kind of book. It's not the best written literature of all time, but it is so much fun. It has lost runaway princess, it has enemies to lovers, it has a rebellion, it has training, and it has Daddy Dacker, which is, you just need to read to find out. Holly Renee writes some really good smut, I will say that. I cannot wait for the second book in the series. I am so excited to pick it up, and this book is just so much fun. Then in the month of May is another month where this is not going to be on my worst books of the year list, but is a very disappointing one because the first book in this series could have potentially ended up on my best books of the month list, and that is Lord of Gold and Glory by Lizette Marshall. This is the second book in the Court of Blood and Binding series, and I just felt like all of the fun that I had from book 1 did not translate over into book 2. I gave it a 3-star, but I was just largely bored and missing their relationship and the banter. We definitely let off on the banter gas a little bit at the end of book 1, and then it just completely stalled out in book 2. And while we do get some more world building, I just wasn't really invested. I wanted the romance to be back. I didn't really care about what we were exploring in book 2, and therefore it didn't work for me as well, which is a very big sad. But let me tell you about the glow up that was the Kindred Curse saga by Penn Hull. This is Heat of the Everflame. I also read Glow, and Glow was also a super high, almost 5-star, probably was a 5-star read, but this was a 5-star read for me. You guys, I did not love Spark. Spark of the Everflame, I felt like needed some work. DM was a little dumb, and the plot was kind of all over the place. And then we hit Glow, and then we hit Heat, and I was completely obsessed. list. This is for the romantasy girlies. If you have not picked this series up, you have to right now. I'm dying and really sad and kind of just like don't know what to do with myself because I don't have Burn in my hands yet. Burn of the Everflame, can you get here a little bit sooner please? Because I need to know what's gonna happen with Baby Diem and Luther. I just cannot gush about this series enough. I think you guys need to pick it up. It is so good. And then to finish us out the month of June, my worst book of June was To Bleed a Crystal Bloom by Sarah A. Parker, which is not the thing that I was hoping to be saying, but I did not love this book. It is a age gap-ish romance that is supposed to be a hunted captor kind of thing, but it was really boring and all over the place. It was confusing for the sake of being confusing but not intriguing, and I just didn't like it, and I really wish that I did. I liked When the Moon Hatched, and I will definitely continue on into that series, but this series, To Bleed a Crystal Bloom, just did not work for me at all and did end up being my worst book of the month. But my best book of the month was the sequel to Emperor's Blades by Brian Stavley, The Providence of Fire. Really enjoyed this one, ended up giving it a 4-star. It is an epic fantasy following 3 siblings, and their life kind of takes a real big turn after the emperor dies, and they're kind of navigating, okay, well, who killed their father, as well as who is now going to sit the unhewn throne. I'm thoroughly enjoying this series. I cannot wait to finish it out later this year. If you are a high epic fantasy fan and you're looking for something unique, I think that you should definitely give this series a try. Okay, everybody, so I think that that is all for my mid-year check-in. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Let me know if you enjoy these types of videos. It's always fun for me to reflect on the first of the year and see, okay, well, now that I've done this for half of the year, what do I need to do differently to make sure that I have a banging wrap up for you guys in January to close out 2024? If you want to just let me know that you were here and hanging out, leave me a flame emoji for Heat of the Everflame. As always, links to my Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads are all in the description box below. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe if you want to, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!